small updates on where we are today. And I think while everyone is talking a lot about India, India's growth, I think we are in a tricky situation today. If you look at the macro levels, 6 to 7%, and we have different projections of the GDP growth. NSE, NSO, RBI, MEA, and other people. But 6 to 7% is the growth, which is the highest in the world. That is one great factor for India. GST collection, we have already crossed 200,000 crores. FIIs are volatile, but they are putting and pumping in good money, good amount of money in India. The hope is in next 5 years, India will double down its economy and become a $10 trillion economy and the third largest economy, which is quite good. But on the other side, the major challenges are: one, job creation; second, the forex; third, the FDI. So that's why I said it's a tricky situation. But all this keeping aside, there is one segment where there is a lot of response from the policymakers, from the India Inc., from the BFSI heads, and that is global capability centers. And that's what I will try to decode from the lady and the gentleman here with me. How do they look at GCC and how are the collaborations happening in this space? So thank you so much for being part of this particular conversation. And my first question is, I will start with you, the lady first. What is it that India needs to scale up its GCC and maybe take it to the next level?
Like the minister said, in the past, we've had, back office kind of operations, low-hanging fruit, low-skilled kind of offshoring that has happened. But to take it to the next level, I think investment in the skills of the future, in leadership, ability to have that seat at the table means you need to be contributing to the strategy of the organization. Technology, no doubt. But along with that, there's also, identification of risk, so risk management, all kinds of risk management, cyber and otherwise, and the regulatory environment. So all of these are conducive to take it to the next level. So for us to say that we have the seat at the table, contribute to strategy, having the right leaders, I think this is also very important. Everything else is a given, that we are already at a certain level of maturity.
Jaideep?
Yeah. Okay, just to give a perspective, I represent Warner Brothers Discovery, some of the iconic brands like Friends, Big Bang Theory, Barbie, and the Indian context Pogo, Cartoon Network, etc. So we are a newbie into the ecosystem of GCC. We are still in our second year, and clearly I think there was one experience which helped us bring in or set ourselves up in Hyderabad was what both Jayesh and the minister said was the ecosystem was something which was amazing, which really catapulted us to, okay, let's leverage the talent, etc. What's going to take for us to go to the next level? Very clearly differentiated product strategy. What kind of products are going to be coming out of these centers, or what kind of work is getting delivered in terms of the value? For us, those are going to be absolutely, absolutely critical. So that's what I would go with at this point in time.
So very tempted to ask, will Warner Brothers produce movies in Hindi also and Telugu also?
We created 3,000 hours of content in India last year. 3,000 hours. Fantastic. And our content is available in at least 6 different languages in India. That's what I would leave it at. Yeah.
Fantastic. Manoj, next level.
Yeah, thanks. I think just to add to my fellow speakers, I think can you hear me? Yeah. I think it sets the tone beautifully, Amol, for why we are here on the stage. I think for the next phase of growth of the GCs, I think the collaboration is going to be absolutely key. And one of the things that we have realized as Morgan Stanley, and we've been around in the GC space in India since 2003, so it's 22 years. But there's still so much to learn, even from GCs that are setting up new, from GCs from very different industries. In fact, I was just chatting with my fellow panelists earlier that, when you come from financial services, you believe that we, move the world's money and it's mission critical. You cannot afford to have systems fail or our processes not deliver, every day, every second. But you look at it, there are other industries too, like aerospace or healthcare, etc., which are equally critical on to have mission critical systems delivered out of India. So I think there's tremendous learning opportunities which will help us through collaboration and will take GCs to the next level.
Certainly, I think that was good to begin with. I have a couple of specific questions also for all of you. And Genevieve, I will start with you. Service provider has become one of the integral part when it comes to the GCCs. So how the relationship, the collaborations between the GCCs and the service provider has been strengthened and can reach to maybe next level?
See, the offshoring has happened. There are service providers in the market. But the one thing that everybody looks for, the global organization look for when they send things to places like India is operational efficiencies. And that is something, the strong partnerships with the service providers, we are assured that once we partner with them, there's definitely sharing of best practices, there is operational efficiencies that we can drive out of those relationships. So collaboration over there also becomes essential amongst all of us, because it's about cost benefit, right? How, being in a bank, it's about the customer experience. How can I make my customer happy in a cost-effective manner, and there's time to market. So all of these are important, and if we partner with the service providers, we know that we can deliver on time, best in class.
Jaideep, let me come back to you. You spoke about the 3,000 hours of content that you have created and you're rapidly growing in India. So Jaideep, my question is, in your experience, how has been your experience in setting up GCC and then catering to the various demands in India?
No. Again, it's very fresh for us coming here. And clearly, I think both Manoj and Jen spoke about them being present in the country, and they've had the ability to mature over the last 15, 20 years. I think the issue with newer GCCs like us is we don't have that luxury of 18, 20 years to get to that state of maturity. At max, we have the next 3 to 5 years to get to a similar state of maturity. Now, what's happened in the process as we stood up was, when you think about us, I think there are 3 components for us as a firm. People, what kind of people do we not just deploy within the organization, but the talent which we're using to create content. Second is about creating content. And third is about the platform on which our content lives. And I'm happy to state that if I had set it up, say, maybe 10, 15 years back, it would have really taken me a while to get across all the 3 dimensions. As I said, people, content, and platform. We are already in that particular space across all the 3 dimensions. So it's not just about, say, I'm doing only technology or I'm doing only a corporate service, etc. We're now beginning to work in the space of post-production, etc. Right? So those are the aspects which I say. Now, how was that enabled? I would say there are a lot of people sitting here in this audience who have really helped us kickstart the process. I mean, of course, there is an aspect of skepticism when you are starting something, but then several leaders sitting here have shared their own journeys with us, and which made our CFO, our CIO, our chief accounting officers take a very different view of our operating model. So I think the ecosystem has played a very good role for us to thrive in this kind of environment. That's what I would say on this.
Sure. So Manoj, India has been a back office, when it comes to the IT services for longer time, and we have a great amount of export revenue from that side. But again, rather than maybe being very original and creating, selling our intelligence, we became a back office on that front. We did not develop much, which was in fact the need, and a lot of experts are talking about it. In that context, I see a lot of GCCs are coming and still focusing more on the back office of India. How do you see GCCs can leverage India's talent and maybe then strengthen in a altogether different manner and not just use these platforms only to create a back office?
Yeah, great question, Amol. The way I see the evolution of GCs, they typically go through 4 stages: set up, scale up, impact, and transform, right? So setup is obvious. You're just proving the model, trying to get the operation off the ground. And like you've heard from earlier speakers, definitely, whether we like it or not, cost arbitrage is what gets them here. And that's what gets the back office and what we call lower end, more transactional, sort of less critical work. If India drops the ball, the business operation won't suffer, right? The second is you quickly move from that, and when you hire top talent and you position the GC correctly, you're quickly asked to scale up because the model is now very quickly proven. And I think the life cycle for each of these steps has drastically shrunk, and I agree with Jaideep on that. So the second stage, scale up happens. When scale up happens, if you focus on building business expertise, understanding the function and the client customer context, etc., and how the industry is changing, then you are able to make a business impact. You can own functions. You can start really having those business discussions, which really have a significant impact. And the last stage is really in transform, where the ownership moves significantly to India, and where you're not just delivering the function with impact from here, but you're transforming the function and the way it is delivered. And I think a great example for many of us was when COVID happened and a lot of services needed to be delivered very differently to clients and customers. If you had GCs which were at the fourth stage of evolution, the impact was significantly felt. And I'll just quote one thing. I mean, when this is a very popular research study that Morgan Stanley put out last year, that this is India's decade, and it talked about three areas, right? One was the impact on services and manufacturing, this becoming services and manufacturing hub. The second was energy transition, and third is digital public infrastructure, what we have in India. These really will drive the growth in India. And the first one, I think, is relevant to your question as well, because there's a lot of manufacturing coming in. We're seeing a lot of manufacturing companies also setting up their services hub. So it's a very, very interesting transformation that's happening. And I think the back office and low end is really now a small part or a short part of a GC's growth journey.
That was quite meaningful, Manoj. I think, Jaideep, while there are very encouraging and dynamic numbers that how many GCCs are coming in India, how many people they have employed, I want you to tell us operationally what are the challenges that the GCCs face when they come to India, because all these are the multinational companies and India is a different demography in every region, right? And we do not know how things will. So for example, I was talking to some expert in Singapore and he said that Singapore में क्या होता है कि हम पहले रास्ता बनाते हैं and then the rest of the infrastructure is created. In India हम infrastructure बनाने के बाद भी रास्ता नहीं बनता है, right? So these are the major challenges that we face. So in your view, when you look at the operational challenges, what are those while setting up in GCC in India? How did you come over it, and what would be the major pain points?
Thanks, Mol, for that. Look, I think 2 or 3 key components in terms of specific challenges, if you were to look at it. One was, we didn't face it, but like what kind of a grade A infrastructure is available, etc. What's the proximity from a public transport system? And so those kind of aspects are typically, I would say, more tangible components of as you are looking to set up. And then getting an office space much closer to the public infrastructure, because now you also want to make sure that you're doing your duty towards not having increasing the carbon footprint from that perspective. So encouraging employees to come in. Again, I think it was pretty good. I think the other aspect from a local government standpoint was literally Jayesh had said, whatever issues you have, reach out to us and we will solve for those. Now, in our specific case, now as we are ramping up in areas like post-production, etc., we've got people who, there is a local industry here from which we are looking to clearly hire talent. Now, this is a different skill set. This is in the area of post-production, content generation, etc. So how am I going to upskill some of that talent to be able to produce content from a global standard standpoint, that's an area which we are looking to focus at this point in time. Yeah. So, I mean, those are the 2 or 3 things I would say typically.
If
from
I
here.
could just add, right, besides, to what was said already, the cultural aspect also of the organization becomes very important. We are hiring to anybody who is setting up or somewhere just in the early 2-3 years. You're hiring people from the market, from maybe competitors, peers. The cultural mindset of the people within the organization aligning to the global objectives, that becomes very important. The value system, so that change and aligning to those goals, that drives, because the talent drives the success of the GCCs. And I think that becomes very, very important as well. So if you are unable to gather and force that, use that force in a meaningful manner, you can just coast along for some time. So it's important to have the right cultural mindset aligning to the corporate goals globally.
So I have a very important but a soft question. So when all the heads of the GCCs come to Hyderabad, do they love the Hyderabadi biryani and the filter coffee?
I was recommended at least 5 places to eat when people knew that I was coming to Hyderabad. So all with the biryani on the menu.
Sure. I think the one sector or the segment which is the major pain point for India is job creation now. And GCC has solved that problem or is trying to solve that problem quite aggressively. How do you see that it's shaping up? I mean, how the GCCs are actually creating more jobs, how they're trying to bridge the talent gap. And you come from specifically the finance background. I still remember a chief of a DBS bank, in conversation told me a couple of years back that he is not hiring the financial analyst or the business analysts at his bank, but the tech experts. And he wants people like some psychologists or psychiatrists and philosophers, because he felt that that's how he can add a greater value to the AI which is going to come into the picture. So overall job creation, skills, how do you see that GCC is building that?
I think India is a prime example of high value skill sets. Today, when we have students coming out of business schools, colleges, they come with skills that are already the skills of the future. So I don't even want to say future, I want to say right now. All the things that we are looking for. So in finance, since I'm from finance, I can speak about it, right? I have no longer put a must-have or a nice to have on a specific tech skill like Python or whatever, what have you, right? Today, it's considered business as usual to have those skills. So today, the people who are entering the workforce already have those skills. So the minister said something very interesting earlier, right? Education at school level and keeping them industry ready. I think that becomes very important. So those skill sets already exist in finance. Like you said, they could be very diverse skill sets, and that's what makes the workforce very rich, because you get all those diverse skill sets and you're not very hardcore accounting, but you have these other skill sets that will take it to the next level. So it's increasing the value proposition even in something as boring as accounting and finance sometimes.
Can I take a pick on this one? I think India is the capital of developing hard skills. I think there is absolutely no doubt in terms of developing hard skills. I think the place where we struggle is the softer skills aspect of it. I think very clearly there is a gap by the time you exit your college to the time you become really productive in the organization. I think a lot is getting done in that space, but I still feel that we clearly need to do. Like GCCs have done a phenomenal job. Those who've been here, they've done a phenomenal job in helping students kind of bridge that gap. So that's an area I clearly feel is going to be important for the administration to focus as well.
To increase the value proposition, you want to have global roles out of India. Global ownership seat at that table means you are running something global, sitting out of India, not in that original location like America or whatever. So that means leadership skills. So investing in that middle management so that they can sit at that table and talk business. That's the next value proposition, right? Owning something, but you don't have to go to the other country. You sit right here, and many of us already have those kind of roles, but you need more of them. That means you are seat and voice. You're contributing to the strategy, to the revenue, to the bottom line of the organization you are in. And that's not just an offshoring cost arbitrage.
No, certainly. In fact, when it comes to the talent, there are more than 100,000 startups registered in India. Out of them, 135 are the unicorn startups, and 25 or 26 are the fintech unicorns, right? And these are the registered one. I imagine the unregistered one, how many of them, and they are now competing with everyone. Manoj, I have a question for you. But before that, can I ask at the backstage maybe to keep a mic ready, because after this question, I will come to the audience. If anybody has any question, please be ready. Try to be very crisp. I will take your question. So please be ready with the mic, guys. Manoj, the question to you is specifically about GCCs. What kinds of strategic and structural planning that GCCs need, or they need while establishing themselves in India?
While establishing in?
Themselves in India.
Yeah. So I think very, very critical is that the GC has to be set up as an integral part of the parent firm. And this reminds me of my experience when I was setting up the first GC for a leading British bank in 2007. So we just sort of got the operation, the setup stage, and then I went to London to pitch for more work to come in. And the first question that this was a tech center, so the CIO asked, some of the CIOs, one downs asked, okay, we get this rate from, IT service vendor X, what will be your rate and what? So the first thing I had to do was to educate them that we are not a service vendor to you. We are the bank, right? So we are here to build IP, be an engine for the growth and transformation of the bank. So I think the positioning is very important, getting senior stakeholders to understand that this is a very high quality talent hub, which is an integral part of the bank or whatever the organization is, I think is super critical. And I think it's very important to specialize, especially in the early stage, to pick certain areas that you want to be very strong in, both in terms of the service capability, but also in terms of business and functional knowledge. I think those will be some of the very critical steps to position yourself for success.
That was again very meaningful one, Manoj. I have a time maybe for one question. Can we have a mic there, please? Yeah. Anybody has any question? Yeah, sure. Can you have a mic here, please? Yeah. Yes, sir, please.
Good morning, everyone. I am Ram Mohan Namile. My question is that, do you have anything on the agenda where we spot the talent across the children at the middle and high school level, adopt them if they are not financially strong enough, ultimately bring them, make them a responsible, knowledgeable contributors to the country, not only to the country.
I think that question is more about the education policy.
I-
It's a good one, but yeah,
Can I take
please
that?
feel free to add. Yes.
So, as a firm, JP Morgan very clearly believes in investing in the community. So, this is not just about the business of the bank, right? Because it's JP Morgan Chase, where we are very closely involved with the communities where we are operating out of. So, in India, for example, we are very keen on STEM education in municipal schools of Mumbai. So, 8th standard, 9th standard students of municipal schools, and I personally am an executive sponsor for that program. So it's about STEM education, solving everyday problems of their society, right? Small problems where they see, skilled laborers doing different kinds of work, how they can, solve the problems in a common man's world. So encouraging that kind of education, and then the ability then to sell their proposal to people like us, and say encouraging that is important at a very grassroots level. And I think that becomes important. And I think firms like us, I'm just giving the example of my firm, but I'm sure the others do the same as well. And I think going to that grassroots level is very important, because that's how you make these young children industry ready and ready to serve the community, ready to serve this country. So it's very easy to go to another country, but to serve this country, it's very important.
If I could just add, I think a lot of the tier 1 GCs definitely do this. I'm sure even some of the well-settled ones do it. I think in addition to getting children from schools and others coming in to experience what a tier 1 firm like ours does and mentoring them, I think one of the things that the government of India started recently under the skills mission to have all companies like ours, all of us, have 2% of headcount as apprentices. We have started taking apprentices and giving them that exposure. And to Jaideep's point, which is a really good point, it's not just about the hard skills. It's not about learning AI. It's also about interacting, how do you make a compelling business case, and so on. So I think these are all initiatives which are really giving back to society and skilling for the future.
Sure. Jaideep, we'll take another question. Maybe we can take it. Yeah. Can we have a question? Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So mine is actually a question come point. I think we're talking about GCCs and at the same time having a seat at the table, right? And we hire, especially in the GCCs, a lot of times fresh talent, and especially the Gen Zs coming into the organization. And especially because if people have to look at the business value addition, first they need to understand end to end actually what is the organization all about, what is a end goal of the organization. So how do we ensure that when we hire a new talent, they see the bigger picture end to end? Because I may be part of finance or I may be part of IT, right? But end of the day, there is a definitely collaboration needed across, and they should be able to see, understand each other, so there is a seamless transition happens. So how do you
Sure.
relate?
Okay. Go ahead, Manoj.
Yeah, so very quickly, great point. One of the things we do even for interns, let alone new hires, when interns come in, one of the first sessions we do is understanding Morgan Stanley as a business. And then we realized that when we were hiring technologists, we were hiring some of the smartest people from the best colleges. They're very good, I mean, those days with Java and now with more advanced technologies. But they didn't understand a business. What is equities? What is debt to derivatives, swaps, options, etc. So it's very important for them to understand that technology is only a tool or a lever to deliver to business. And that's something I think most tier 1 firms invest a lot in.
Can we have a diversity? So I would like that lady to take the last question. Please go ahead. Can you have a mic there, please? Can we have a mic there? Yes, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Padmavati from Tata Projects. I'm core civil engineer. So, present scenario, just it's my view, and I want your point of view also on the present condition of students who are really in trouble in US because of this political stunt, whatever happened, and they are feeling guilty to work unauthorized working hours, and because of requirements they are working, we understand. When they are coming back, they are sending them back. How do we GCC stand for them? Any view for them?
I mean, it's a very different question, but if you take the second part of the question, whether GCCs will onboard those people, I mean, the first is absolutely political one, but Jaideep, you want to add that?
I mean, look, bottom line is each of the firms have their onboarding process, and as part of the background check, etc. and all, it has to filter through all those. And if it goes through, I don't see any reason why we should not be able to onboard some of these people. That's what I would say, subject to the onboarding process and the requisite checks. Yeah.
Sure. I think I will just take last one question with all of you. Maybe you can take just 30 seconds, each one of you. I know you cannot cover it in 30 seconds because the question is quite broad, but if you could still share your thoughts on where do you see GCCs in next 3 to 5 years? What is the future of GCCs? And more importantly, if you could also add how the impediments, regulatory roadblocks and all can be addressed. Jinvi, can you start with you?
So for me, the next 3 to 5 years, and I think firms like ours who have been around for 20 plus years are already, on that journey, is global roles out of India, product owners out of India, owning majority of the key roles, not majority, quite a few of the key roles out of India. That is number one. So you're shaping the strategy, contributing to the strategy. That's one. definitely at the cutting edge of technology. So that means your R&D is done out of here. There's a lot of, whether it's payment technology for us or cybersecurity for us, most of that is done out of India. And I think that becomes very, very important as well. So for us, these couple of things, at least I can say, and maybe you all can add on for some of the more.
Yeah. So I think the only thing I'd add is we are not going to measure, we meaning I don't think Morgan Stanley or any of the tier 1 GCs will measure success in terms of how much their headcount has grown. The measure will be in terms of how have we transformed the business. And I think the other huge advantage that India's GCs bring is when we have the scale that we have all built, the larger GCs, we do front to back business and we are able to see the entire business in one place, which is not easily possible. In Morgan Stanley, it's possible really in New York and it's possible in our India office. So that allows us to see end-to-end and transform the business.
And I'll just say, pretty much, I totally 100% agree with. I'll just say, what's the impact we can create on the revenue of the firm? Because look, the cost case has been there for years and years. What's the impact I have been able to have on the revenue of the firm? Pretty much. That's the way I would see as we grow.
For sure, I think that was quite meaningful and relevant. Thank you so much sharing those meaningful and relevant thoughts here. And thank you so much for listening to us very, very patiently and shooting your questions and trying to make a great participation here. Thank you so much. Wish I could have taken more questions and allowed you as well, but the time is up. Thank you. Thank you so much.